Thank you so much.
I would like to now invite Dr. Reema Bansal to present her views on managing vasculitis. Dr. Reema is an additional professor, uveitis and vitreoretina service at Advanced Eye Center, PGIM at Chandigarh. She has 164 publications in peer-reviewed journals with 26 chapters in books. She has 10 awards to her credit, including the Carl Herbert Best Paper Award, J.M. Pava Best Paper Award, AIOS Reema Mohan Award for Best Paper, Award of Appreciation by PGIMF. She has delivered about 150 guest lectures in national and international conferences. She is an elected member of the International Uveitis Study Group and National Academy of Medical Sciences. She is member Scientific Committee, Uveitis Society of India, and reviewing editor, Ocular Immunology and Inflammation, sub-editor of the Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. May I invite Dr. Reema, please, to share her screen.
Thank you, Dr. Chekitan, for this opportunity for having me in your instruction course, along with the esteemed panel. So I'll be talking on managing retinal vasculitis. So we have an obvious presentation like this where we don't have a diagnostic challenge at all. So we have a very clear-cut case of very active bilateral retinal vasculitis. Now we have another case where we have patient presenting with blurred vision in both the eyes. All that you can see is hazy media and vitritis in the left eye much more than the right eye. So beyond the clinical clues, we don't have much to be able to make a diagnosis unless we do a fluorescein angiography where it shows not only the retinal leakage, but it also shows the kind of vessels that are involved. We have another patient who just presents with floaters and nothing much to add clinical, no cells in the AC, probably few cells in the vitreous, but not sure of what's going on. If you see the fundus absolutely normal, unless you do a fluorescein, which shows there is active leakage in both the eyes, all quadrants, and the Fern type of leakage points towards Behçet's vasculitis. So by now, the role of fluorescein is very clear. It's mandatory in retinal vasculitis, and I would say it's not optional. So when we see a patient with retinal vasculitis after seeing the clinical examination and doing the fluorescein, we need to know whether we're dealing with infectious or non-infectious etiology, whether it is the arteries which are inflamed or whether it's phlebitis or it is both, whether you have an associated retinitis or choroiditis because it will narrow down your differentials, whether you have accompanying cystoid macular edema or you may have vasculitis without CME. Now, when we have vasculitis with CME, they respond very well, very dramatically to oral steroids, or if it is unilateral, Ozurdex is a good option after you rule out an infectious etiology. We may have just a patient with cells in the AC, but dilated fundus is absolutely important because you may find some clues, and here you see some kind of sheathing of vessel along the upper temporal arcade with a prominent perivascular choroiditis patch pointing towards a possible tubercular etiology. Now let's look at this patient who presents with vitreous hemorrhage in the left eye. I would say never ignore the normal looking eye when you're sitting as an uveitis specialist. Even as a comprehensive ophthalmologist, very important to see the fellow eye because it can have some kind of neovascularization or fibrovascular proliferation in the extreme periphery, which is not obvious on clinical examination. And of course, you confirm it with a fluorescein. Now, this is another patient who presents with left eye vitreous hemorrhage, and for obvious reasons, this patient needs a vitrectomy in the left eye. So just before taking up a vitrectomy, we just thought of doing an angiogram. And we found lots of new vessels in the disc and elsewhere in the left eye along with subhyaloid bleed. And right eye, as looked clinically obvious, posterior pole was absolutely normal because there was nothing on the clinical examination. But the fluorescein revealed a large new vessel in the upper temporal periphery, lower nasal, and upper nasal. So this patient had ischemic sequelae in the right eye, which apparently looked very normal. So obviously we took up this patient for a vitrectomy and endolaser in the left eye, and this was the result after surgery in the left eye. The right eye we took up for scatter laser photocoagulation, and this is how the patient was doing after 5 years with 6/6 vision. So just to recap, the left eye fluorescein at baseline showed these changes, which could be reversed with a good laser and vitrectomy at 5 years. Fluorescein of the right eye showed these extensive neovascular and CNP areas, and everything reversed with good laser at 5 years, and we could prevent the ischemic sequelae. You may have sometimes just the exudation presenting as the only predominant finding, and you might just ignore the sheathing of the vessels in the periphery when we see so much of exudation and we think of some vascular phenomenon obviously going on. The OCT shows hard exudates intraretinal fluid, but what next? As I said, fluorescein. And fluorescein just gives you the diagnosis. You have arterial aneurysms, and here you have a diagnosis of idiopathic retinal vasculitis, aneurysms, and neuroretinitis. A young patient presenting with sudden bilateral loss of vision, you can see extensive attenuation of the vessels, both the arteries and the veins, cotton wool spots all over, hemorrhages perivascular. Now, fluorescein shows absolute non-perfusion, more in the left eye than the right eye. Now, these are the cases which need a lot of investigations for autoimmune etiology, collagen vascular disorders, immunocompromised status. But these are the eyes which need to be treated faster than to investigate, because by the time we wait for the investigations, it might be too late. So I would advise, because these eyes have a tendency to go into rubiosis iritis, and it's better to treat these patients when we see them clinically rather than calling back with a list of investigations before it's too late. A very classical presentation of retinal vasculitis in the right eye, a young male presenting with this, and you can jump to a diagnosis etiology of TB or sarcoid, but don't forget the mimicles. These are the cases which, rather than treating with steroids, it's important to investigate faster, opposite to the previous case which I showed you, because this patient, when we subjected him to the routine labs that we do, Montauk CT chest and TPHA, he was found to be reactive for TPHA. And when we asked him the history, he had history of multiple partners. And on examination, he was found to have lesions on the tongue and on the genitalia. So these are the patients who, rather than treating with steroids, need penicillin. Otherwise, they end up with a catastrophe. So the ancillary tests that are required for retinal vasculitis is OCT to look for CNE. And as I said, fluorescein is the most important, and I would say autofluorescence and ICGA practically do not have any role unless there is a choroidal involvement. Fluorescein gives you not only the pattern recognition, and it also tells you about how much activity is going on and helps you in monitoring these patients which just show leakage on fluorescein and do not offer you much clinical clues. Laboratory tests, as I said, these are the conventional to rule out infectious etiologies, and then targeted labs depending upon the clinical presentation and the systemic history. So coming to the treatment of retinal vasculitis, no doubt it's important to treat the active inflammation, the active vasculitis, but it's equally important to prevent the ischemic sequelae, because we don't want to land up in this situation where you have an extensive inoperable fractional retinal detachment leading to blindness. So thank you very much, and thank you, Chekitan, once